Alright, well, this little contraption here is what I use on my short bed pickup so I can carry my kayak around. It's all rigged up with lights, just plug it in and away it goes. It works perfectly. Lovely thing. Glad I got it, otherwise I'd be lifting it up. Now I'll show you my boat. It's not a Hobie, but it'll do for me. It's a Walmart special. It's the Ozark Trail Pro Angler 12. It's 12-footer. I'll start at the front end. $497. It was a hell of a buy. All things considered, I don't want to spend $2,500 or more on a Hobie or something like that. So I'll walk you through this. All right. So I've got my Anchor Wizard. I put a little 3-pound weight on it. It's great. I've got a bow line in case I need it. I've got my nav lights. I don't know if you can see this or not. Green and red. I got my battery box. I've got a strap to hold the battery box in. All the power comes out of this battery. I've got my anchor trolley on here. It's all set up. This pulley is for my Anchor Wizard. I've got my hatch that I can use for miscellaneous stuff. Plug in. This is my major control box plug-in right here. I'll show you that here in a minute. I've got my stand-up bar that I built. Made that out of scrap from Goodwill. This piece and this piece just fit together perfectly. I had to buy the fittings and all, so I got maybe, I don't know, $3 for the metal and $30 for the fittings. I built myself 2 PVC rod holders. They work great. I've got my transducer for my fish finder. Just spin the knob and drop her down in place and lock her down and she's good to go. There's my Anchor Wizard with the rope on it. I've got a couple of rod holders for either side. Extensions, they work great. I've got, this is another Goodwill special table that I found and rigged it up. I've got my fish finder on it. I've got my power control box. I've got my bow light, my stern light, my deck lights. Oh yeah, there's the deck lights. There's one here too, and there's a couple more up front. This is for my eggs. Tape measure on the front. If I want to stand up, this just folds up, goes out of the way. It's all set, so I've got plenty of room to stand up and fish. What else do I have? I've got my seat, which is elevated. I put an extra pad on it. Just rests on these 2 crossbars here, and it's a lot thicker and more comfortable. And I like it elevated, and there's a reason I have it elevated. I'll show you that in a minute. Here's my vest with a breakaway, so if I fall out of the boat, this line goes up and it'll pull the negative battery clamp off the terminal and cut the power so the boat doesn't go anywhere. I've got my little safety horn down here, which is really loud. Little fish beater. My rear anchor line. A lot of guys use, but I drilled the holes out in mine so that I could put this rod in. That way I can just pull it and the thing just drops loose. I've got the float back there for it, so it'll, I won't lose this thing when I drop it. What else have I got? I've got outriggers that I built, special outriggers. These are a little different than normal because these actually fold up out of the way and they're all detachable. I can take all of these pieces apart if I want, get them out of the way. I've got my Walmart cooler. It's like a Yeti, just as good as a Yeti. That's sitting there. I've got my nav light on top of that. That pops right out. I've got my little handheld net, and that goes, if I need an extension, it'll go slide right in there on my extension pole for longer catches. What else? I've got my motor, which from the cockpit up there I can just pull on a line. It breaks the lock on the motor, and with a second line I can pull the motor up out of the way and it just locks in place there. And if I want to get going again, all I got to do is just pull a little bit more. it breaks that lock, drops down and locks back in place. So it's all good to go. Steering cable set up, spring loaded, so it automatically returns to center. These red steering cables will walk up there. I've got a rear hatch, and in the rear hatch, just for the fun of it, I stuck a bilge pump, so I'm good to go with that, and a sponge in case there's a little bit of water in there. I've got my rear anchor. There's my outlet for my bilge pump, all set to go. I've got a downrigger on it, my oars in place, so there's a downrigger that I can swivel around. And the reason I wanted the seat up high is because I just used the normal head off of my old Shakespeare 25, which is probably about 35 years old, and I can steer the boat from here. In fact, if I point it in this direction, the boat goes in that direction. If I point it in this direction, the boat goes in that direction. It's just the opposite of a normal tiller, because what I did is I crossed these wires, right? Instead of having them go here and here, I just crossed them so that the boat will go in the direction the handle points to. So it's really nice. I did have to drill a hole down there, but that's all right. It's sturdy. I put a clamp on it. It ain't going anywhere. So that is my Ozark trail. Yeah, I built a custom cart for it too. It makes it a lot easier to move it around. There's my Ozark trail, and I love the thing. You know, for the $500 versus $2,400 or more for the Hobies and those kinds, I've got everything I need on this boat. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, holler at me.